Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla and the new show, Overflow, episode 45. We got the first sales numbers of the Model Y L in China, and Tesla sales in China continues to outshine the German OEMs that seems to be falling even further. But BMW CEO said in an interview he believes their Neue Klasse EV will absolutely give BMW some growth back in China. And SpaceX has announced that they will buy wireless spectrum license from Eurostar for about $17 billion. One step closer to Starlink's own global cell phone service. And Elon did a new interview with the All In podcast crew. And the Chinese automakers and tech suppliers are moving into Europe with speed and scale. And Tesla introduced a completely new feature yet again.
MultiPass.
All of this and much more in today's episode. Start right in.
Let's put our living stereo stylus in this groove.
So last week we had kind of a special week, as this was the first week Tesla started deliveries of the new Tesla Model Y L. So last week's registrations for Tesla in China broke down to 5,000 Model 3s and 8,400 Model Ys, including the first 900 units of the newly launched Model Y L variant, as Roland reported. Tesla China delivered its first 900 Model Ys to customers last week, so that's very cool. They just started deliveries and they have already delivered 900 in just a week. That is 120 units every single day. Not bad for the first week of deliveries, as this will only ramp up, because if you order now they are already sold out in September and October, so you can first get one in November if you order now. And on a quarterly basis, Tesla China is tracking 41.3% growth compared to the previous quarter, which bodes well for the company's result here in Q3. For the month of August, Tesla sold 57,152 vehicles in China domestically, down 10% from the same period in 2024, but up 40.7% from July's 40,617 units, according to the Chinese Passenger Car Association. Year to date, Tesla's China sales are 7.2% lower compared to previous year. And you can also see here on Roland's chart that Tesla is tracking last year's numbers very nicely. So I think this is very impressive, especially if we take the competition into calculation. So take someone like Mercedes in China that has not made a huge lockdown of their factories or anything. They just continue to drop in sales in China. In 2024 they were down 7%, and in the first half of 2025 they are down another 14%. In Q2 alone they were down 19%, and that is all their cars, not just BEVs. So why is someone like Fred Lambert not out talking about how Mercedes sales are collapsing in China, even though they are losing much more than Tesla is? But according to Fred, it's only Tesla that has a demand problem and sales are collapsing in China. But if we look at just BEV sales in 2024, well, Mercedes was down 25% in China. And I was not able to find the exact number for Mercedes Chinese BEV sales in the first half of 2025, but in Q2, on a global scale, Mercedes BEV sales were down another 24%. So Tesla is tracking their last year numbers very nicely, only down 7% after the big refresh on the car that stands for 65% of their sales. I find that very impressive. You can also look at BMW, which was down 13.4% last year in China, and in the first half of this year they are down 15.5%. And that is also on all their models, including ICE cars. So Tesla is actually the one holding its ground, while most legacy automakers are down in China. Volkswagen has seen its BEV sales in China drop almost 35% in the first half of 2025. Globally, Volkswagen is doing great and is up 47%, but in China, their sales are actually collapsing. So all that talk about the competition is coming for Tesla, and Tesla is in trouble in China and has a demand problem because of all that competition. And then the numbers shows us that Tesla is actually the one standing its ground in China, while the European automakers are the ones whose sales are actually collapsing in China. And competition did come But it was not the legacy automakers that came, it was the Chinese competition that came and is kicking the Western brand out of China, and Tesla seems to be the one that is handling it the best. And you probably remember that Tesla signed a $4.3 billion deal with LG Energy to supply them lithium iron phosphate batteries for its energy storage system from 2027 to 2030. However, the U.S. Defense Industrial Base Consortium state that lithium iron phosphate battery production is currently dominated by China for both battery cells and component materials. While phosphate is produced in the U.S., it's mainly for fertilizer and food. And they outlined a public company called First Phosphate Corporation that could solve this issue. Their solution is both technical and economically viable, and with DPA funding, could become North America's first phosphate production facility dedicated to LFP cathode materials. Their advantage lies in their ultra-pure igneous phosphate rock from Quebec, which they can convert almost entirely into battery-grade phosphate. They already have demonstrated they can go from mine to finished LFP batteries. First Phosphate trade publicly on the stock market under the ticker symbol FRSPF in the US and PHOS in Canada. This project has garnered the US, European and Canadian government attention, so should be something to watch closely in the next month to come as their company develops. And a big thanks to First Phosphate for sponsoring this video. And speaking of BMW, we did get an interview this week from BMW where they did put a little pressure on the BMW CEO about the falling sales in China. As Stecker Autos shared an interview that Oliver Zipse, BMW CEO, did last Sunday, and as he wrote, the question was BMW is selling fewer cars in China. Will the Neue Klasse spark a comeback, or are the golden era gone for now? And Zipse answered, China remains our largest market by far. Yes, which also makes it even worse that you are losing market share in China. But as he continues, we are navigating a market correction, assessing our competitive edge and areas for improvement. We led the premium segment in China and still do. It's no surprise that local manufacturers dominate their home market, like in Europe or the US. With the Neue Klasse, we are well positioned to excite and win over Chinese customers. And another question was, will the Neue Klasse drive new growth for BMW in China? Absolutely.
Absolutely, Phil.
Sorry, don't know how that video got there, but as he said, absolutely. I'm confident the Neue Klasse will fuel growth in China. Its local models are more tailored to China than ever, packed with innovation, developed with local tech partners, which is exactly what Chinese customers value. And another question, in China, Xiaomi offers stylish, high-performance EVs for around 30,000 euros. Can BMW compete with that? We see the price war among some manufacturers, but it's not a sustainable business model. It sparks a fierce shakeout that's just begun. The next decade will be a survival race in the global auto industry. You need a viable business model that thrives without subsidies. Are these new competitors just short-lived? The key question is always, is there a business model? Are there enough customers, and can you generate sufficient margins to be profitable independently? Long-term losses propped up by subsidies don't work in this industry. There are great innovative companies in China, but assuming Chinese manufacturers are inherently more competitive than German ones is misguided. I'm confident that German auto industry will remain very successful in China. So I don't think BMW has any profits on their BEV just yet, so talking about an unsustainable business model also includes BMW. So let's hope they are profitable on their Neue Klasse EV, but with a starting price just over 60,000 euros in Europe with those used batteries, I think it will be a tough sell in China. But we will see how it does in China when it comes out next year. And the last question was, you predict a shakeout. Will German manufacturer disappear too? Global challenges apply to all manufacturers and suppliers. Not every brand or group will survive, but that's not new. History shows brands vanish and new ones emerge. Why would it be different now? Yes, exactly. I will say BMW does look strong in BEV sales when we are looking at the German manufacturers. They are actually selling as many units as the Volkswagen brand, so that's very impressive BEV sales globally for BMW compared to the much more affordable EVs from the Volkswagen brand. So let's see how their Neue Klasse does when it comes out. But yes, some brands will go away, but time will tell who. SpaceX has announced that it will buy wireless spectrum license from EchoStar for its Starlink satellite network for about $17 billion. This agreement will enable us to develop and deploy our next generation Starlink direct-to-call constellation, which will be capable of providing broadband service to cell phones globally. Through the agreement with EchoStar, SpaceX will purchase EchoStar's 50 MHz S-band spectrum in the US, as well as its global MSS spectrum license. Exclusive access to this spectrum, along with the use of optimized 5G protocol design for satellite connectivity, will enable a step change in performance for Starlink Direct-to-Cell. The next generation of Starlink Direct-to-Cell satellites will be designed to fully utilize this spectrum. Driven by custom SpaceX designed silicon and phase array antennas, the satellites will support thousands of spatial beams and high bandwidth capabilities when enable 20x the throughput capabilities as compared to the first generation satellites. So that's very cool. This means that in the future you can have a subscription to Starlink, which is for your internet at home, but also for your cell phone, that will be available to use globally. No switching between carriers and getting ripped off by local countries' carriers. This will be such a game changer that you can stream content at 4G and 5G speed anywhere on the planet. But Elon also explained it at the All In podcast.
Elon, is your vision for this that instead of having an AT&T account and then roaming when you're in the UK or you're in India, it's just we could have one direct deal with Starlink. It works all over the world eventually, not today, but at some point. Is that the end goal? That basically we don't need a regional carrier, we have a global carrier, and that would be you.
That would be one of the options. To be clear, we're not going to put the other carriers out of business. They're still going to be around because they own a lot of spectrum. So but yes, you should be able to have a Starlink like you have an AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon or whatever. You could have a account with Starlink that works with your Starlink antenna at home for your Wi-Fi as well as on your phone, and it would be a comprehensive solution for high bandwidth at home and for high bandwidth direct to cell.
Could you buy some carriers to have more spectrum? Maybe you could buy Verizon?
Not out of the question, I suppose, if that may happen.
Let's talk about...
And this is a huge market, as SpaceX also wrote in this update. In January 2024, SpaceX began deploying Starlink satellite with direct-to-cell capabilities to eliminate mobile dead zones. At that time, more than 20% of the land area across the United States and 90% of Earth remaining uncovered by terrestrial service. So there is a big growth potential for Starlink, and to have just one carrier, and then you can just travel all over the world and never have to worry about it. It just works everywhere. Well, sign me up for that. And as SpaceX wrote, while we have made progress to help end mobile dead zone, our work is just beginning. More than 50% of the world's landmass remains uncovered by terrestrial service. To that end, we have developed and deployed the next generation direct-to-call constellations. We remain committed to work with mobile networks operators globally to continue delivering ubiquitous coverage to as many customers as possible. Elon did explain that the phone of today don't work with the next generation direct-to-cell constellation, so it will be about 2 years before we can get a phone that can handle it. Or maybe Starlink will make their own phone in collaboration with X. Elon definitely has all the pieces to make it work, as Phosphate also wrote. Seems like we are trending ever closer to Elon making a phone. Battery supply chain synergy with Tesla, AI-powered OS synergy with XAI, inference chip locked down with AI 6 Plus with Tesla, telecommunication locked down with Starlink. Yeah, it is basically only a matter of if Elon wants to do this. But let's see how this will all play out. And let's squeeze in the last short news topics into this news show. Yes, it's time for the Tesla shorts. Elon did a new interview with the All In podcast crew, but that was not something completely new and groundbreaking, other than in some areas the AI5 chip will be 40 times better than the AI3, but overall it will have about 8 times the compute. And he also said that by the end of this year, your Tesla would feel sentient. And they also talked about the Optimus robot and how the hands are so critical and very complicated, and that getting the complex supply chain, the hands, and volume production is the 3 hardest things about the humanoid robot and the most important. And he doesn't see many other companies having all 3 of those. But Elon did share his lesson learned after his little side quest to DC.
That was a hell of a side quest.
That was a good side. Any lessons from your time in Washington, D.C.?
The government is basically unfixable.
If you want to see the whole interview, I will leave a link to it down below. And Tesla introduced new features yet again, as they wrote, introducing MultiPass, using a Tesla account to charge at non-Tesla chargers. Nice. Simply activate your Tesla keycard or use the Tesla app to start charging a non-Tesla charger. Find chargers, start charging, and view charging history, all in the same convenient location. Live today for Tesla owners in the Netherlands, more sites and countries soon. A very cool feature. Can't wait until it comes to Denmark so I can test it out and get my own MultiPass.
Lilu Dallas MultiPass.
Yeah.
MultiPass.
MultiPass. You know this MultiPass.
And Max also wrote about it. Nobody likes creating more accounts with payment details and passwords. For charging, this can even mean needing a third-party charging card mailed to your house. Starting in the Netherlands today, your Tesla app and your existing Tesla keycard can start charging your third-party chargers. We'll expand this to more countries quickly if customers love it, and they will. To make ownership effortless, the Tesla app should really be the only thing you need. Nice. And I did talk about Tesla's new Mega Block in the last Overflow News show, but Elon did confirm that Tesla is making the transformers themselves, removing some of the last few bottlenecks, as Jordan from The Limiting Factor also wrote. There has been a multi-year wait time for transformers. By building them in-house, Tesla will address the bottleneck for Megapack's Energy's projects, reducing costs by cutting out third-party margins and increasing the speed of deployment and integration of the hardware. Yes, the Tesla energy business is only going to accelerate from here on out. And Dan Ives was interviewed about Elon's new pay package and had this to say. And just for the record, Elon Musk doesn't get paid $1 trillion in cash, as this headlines kind of suggest, but he gets stocks.
Obviously, Elon Musk, if he hits all of these metrics, could be paid as much as $1 trillion.
The most important asset for Tesla is Musk. And the reality is, in this AI world, Elon staying on and happy is so important in this autonomous and robotics world. And I believe it's exactly what investors wanted to hear. I ultimately believe now that path toward XAI in terms of more and more ownership, as well as ultimately getting to 25% voting control. Because I think for Musk, it comes down to the trillions that he's going to create over the future. I think this is a no-brainer move of the board.
What do you make of those who critique this and say, you know what, he's as incentivized as anyone. He's at the company. He has a huge stake in the company. He's the face of the company. He's not going to leave the company. He's not going to, not focus on this company. What do you think of that?
Yeah, look, I understand that, but I think the reality is that, Elon's thinking about the future when it comes to XAI, when it comes to autonomous, when it comes to Optimus, and he needs to make sure that he has control of that wheel. Of course, there's the financial incentive, but I think more and more it's really also about the voting control as that ramps up. And this is an AI arms race. And Robin, Tesla board know that they need Musk. Musk right now is wartime CEO when it comes to AI. And that's why I believe, look, autonomous alone is worth $1 trillion. And as we all had, just like what we're talking about with Altman, this arms race, Tesla needs Musk. And I think Musk needs Tesla.
But Dan, very quickly, you don't think the the goals that he has to hit are crazy then. If you think autonomous alone is worth $1 trillion, if you wrap in AI on that, these seem like potentially achievable goals if he can deliver on all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Becca, I'd say I think these are achievable goals, and I think the street continues to massively underestimate what Tesla's going to look like over the next 3, 5, 7 years.
And JC shared a new video about Tesla's full self-driving system getting out of the way for the fire trucks.
It's getting over. Look how it's getting over, dude. Did you see that? It got over. That was pretty cool. I mean, it's not cool that there's a car fire up above, but you saw that, right, Mike? It literally, and that was a decision it made because the quicker path was to stay in that lane and continue going, but it got over for the fire truck. Golly, that thing is billowing too.
And Elon wrote on X, "We've open sourced the X algorithm, not because we think it's smart, but to show its many flaws. Every week we try to make it better, not always succeeding, but to be as transparent as we are with community notes, like democracy. It is the worst algorithm except for all the others. Nice, always good with some transparency." And Tesla Economy shared this video and wrote, "The Boeing company Las Vegas Loop has officially delivered over 3 million rides across 3.5 miles of operational tunnel and 8 stations. And the growth is just starting as the company plans to 1. Expand Las Vegas Loop to 68 miles, 104 stations. And 2. Build new tunnels in Nashville, 10 miles of tunnel with 9 stations connecting Nashville International Airport to downtown. And 3. Building in Dubai, 11 miles of tunnel with 11 stations in congested areas. There is nothing boring about this." Nice. And Volkswagen says it will invest up to $1.2 billion in AI by 2030, feeding the technology into every area of its business in a bid to unlock billions in savings, potentially saving $4 billion by 2035, as announced at the IAA car show in Munich, where the company also unveiled their affordable ID Cross electric SUV, as I showed in the last Overflow News show. But the whole AI thing, well, that is something Tesla has been doing for over a decade, with the software that today is called Tesla One that controls most of Tesla and its factories. But nice to see Volkswagen is waking up and heading in that direction. And another week, another Waymo, confused and stuck, as Nick shared on X. Just imagine someone saw a Tesla robotaxi driving on a pedestrian pathway. It would be Armageddon. Yes, but when it's Waymo, nothing but crickets. And Michael Dawn shared on X, Chinese automakers and tech suppliers are moving into Europe with speed and scale. Here's just a few of the many, wait, what? Announcement. BYD plans for 300 dealers in Germany by end of 2026, up from 24 last year. BYD will start building the Dolphin Surf in Hungary in Q4 2024, I think he meant 2025 here. An autonomous vehicle, Momenta self-driving testing with Uber in Munich in 2026, CATL battery plants in Europe, Germany 2022, Hungary 2026, Spain 2027. The last one is a joint venture with Stellantis. Xpeng is selling in 10 European markets and 43 worldwide. Will open its first EU R&D center in Germany this year. Altogether, 14 Chinese brands and more than 100 Chinese suppliers, including Heisei, Horizon, Black Sesame, and Deeproot, present at the IAA 2025. Chinese automakers as a group capture 5% of EU and 10% of the UK market. That is up from a big fat zilch 5 years ago. Yes, while the Western automakers are being kicked out of China, China is slowly and steadily taking market share in Europe and elsewhere. That is all we have time for in this Overflow News Show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help this video out a lot so others can find it on YouTube. And if you did like it, maybe you want to consider hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. And if you're already a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for the support. But if you want to support the channel even more, remember you can, for as little as $1, become a patron of this channel or become a member of the YouTube channel to get a shout out as some extra perks like early access, ad-free versions of my videos, exclusive videos. So hit the members button or check out Patreon to find out more. And don't forget to follow me on X. I post pretty much all the news as it comes out and a lot more. And check out the merch store to get some merchandise and support the show. It is also possible to support the show without becoming a member or a patron. There is a donation option down below or on my website bestintesla.com. You can also become an executive producer and get news articles, exclusive videos, behind the scenes, and access to all my research charts and spreadsheets also on bestintesla.com, or as simple as hitting the super like button. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.